Tuesday night, and it is Talk Show with your host, Monica Brant. That's me. I am super excited about my guest tonight. I have so much information. I don't know how I'm going to get it done in a short amount of time, but I will do my best to talk quickly. And it's really cool because this guy has been doing interviews forever. And I mean, that's not only thing he's done, but so for me to get to interview him, I'm really excited, and I hope I do a good job because he's got a lot of information I want to get across to all my viewers. So he has been a world-renowned bodybuilder. He's a former editor-in-chief of Muscular Development magazine, and he is the owner of Species Nutrition and RX Muscle, huge YouTube channel. He's a loving husband and father, and he's a longtime friend of mine, so please give a warm welcome to my friend, Dave Palumbo.
What's up, Monica?
Hi, Dave.
I'm finally in the other chair. I like to sit in the other chair better sometimes. I don't have to think too much.
No, right? I know, and it's for me, it's so crazy because I'm on this side, and I always was like you, like, oh, I just get to show up and talk. Yeah. And
I probably interviewed you a lot more times than you'll ever interview me. That's for sure.
well, maybe we can make that change that up a little bit.
Maybe it might be a welcome surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's so good to see you. You look healthy and good, and I've really enjoyed listening to RX Muscle over the time that I've been listening when I can catch it with everything else. Sure. And my husband wanted me to tell you that he has enjoyed you as well. He's not in the bodybuilding industry. He's all horse, cowboy, everything. Yeah. But he's really enjoyed you. And he told me last night to make sure that I said that. So I wanted to say that ahead of time.
You know, it's funny because you was telling me you were at the barn yesterday when we were trying to hook up and talk a little bit. And, I, since I moved to Florida, I actually have, a lot of property now. And so wow. We were always thinking about getting horses, and then the property across the street from us, which is 7 acres, opened up. They put it on sale, and I've always I love that house. And so we bought it with my mother-in-law, and she's living there now. But there's a stable with 2 horse stables in there, and there's tremendous property, grazing, corrals. So I actually theoretically might be a horse guy too at some point.
Okay. I love it. Well, I grew up with horses, so
I know your experience. I grew up with nothing. I grew up with hamsters, so. Hamsters. But I'm an animal lover. So.
Well, if you need any advice on horse stuff, because there's a lot of different breeds, and just like dogs, you kind of need to know what breed you're getting into. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to even just run something by me, and I can at least give you my 2 cents. Just like,
what do you recommend for like a good horse?
Well, like dogs, if you get a dog that's a mutt sometimes that you rescue, those can be really awesome animals. Right. Well, like horses, you can get, they call it a grade horse. It's kind of the same. So it really depends on what you want to do with the horse.
What's good for kids? What kind of horse is good for kids?
So the quarter horse is usually a very calm, sturdy, and an older one is usually good. But you really need to, for children, you really need to have someone find that for you. Right. I would not recommend you just going and buying something off the internet because seriously, it is. And my husband has friends all over the country that are trainers that are great horse people. So, awesome. And he just was in Florida for a big 2-week horse show that he goes every year. So
I'll have to reach out.
Yeah, we definitely, if you're serious about that and you want a solid older horse, because a lot of the older show horses that need to be retired just need a good home, and they've had kids all over them for years. So yeah, you can't go wrong. That's a really good breed because they're usually a little bit more calm than some of the other flighty breeds. But we can certainly have a whole nother discussion when you're ready.
That's right. That's another show.
Yes, exactly. So how are you doing? Okay, I didn't realize you moved to Florida. Like somehow that just passed over me. But yay, congratulations that you're out of the Northeast and you are down in awesome Florida.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous. You know what? Since I moved down here, I was just like, I must have been like mentally retarded not to have moved down here like earlier because you know what it is? You get used to where you are. So you could live in Alaska. People in Alaska think it's great up there because they don't know anything better until they actually leave. And then they're like, what was I, crazy? Up here it was 0 degrees here every day. The sun doesn't come out. Yeah, I mean, New York is great in terms of like, opportunities if you're actually working in New York. But I don't make my living from New York, but I'm paying New York taxes and I'm paying New York, property taxes and house prices. And there was no reason for me to be there anymore. So my mother-in-law actually lived down here. My wife is from Cape Coral, so we decided to move everything. The business, I sold both houses up there. She sold her house down here. We bought a big house, and we moved everything down here. It was a tough, like, it's a lot of logistics, but you know what? Once it was all said and done, I was so glad I did it that I don't know if I'm just getting older or, sometimes it's just time to change. I'm a guy, like, I don't change at all. And then all of a sudden I'll go long periods and then I make a huge, tremendous change in everything. and then I kind of just settle in again for another, bunch of years. But you can't be afraid of change. If you don't embrace change, I find that then you just get stuck and stagnant and you don't really, evolve as a person.
Right. So what year did you move to Florida then?
The end of 16. So I've been here 4 years.
Okay. So you're probably happy to be there with everything going on in the world right now. Like, I would say that's a better location than being in New York. So
absolutely.
Getting your family out of there and everything.
The weather. I mean, you know what it is? I tell people it's impossible to be depressed down here because you know what? It's always nice down here. The weather's never bad.
How far away are you from the new White House?
I'm in Southwest Florida, so I'm on the West Coast.
Okay.
Like just above Naples. So.
Okay. I'm actually coming down to Miami, and I'd love to talk to you on another topic. One of my sponsors is BodyScape magazine.
Cool.
This is actually January 2020. My cover last year, it came out January 2020. But wow. So I'm working with them, the publisher, and we're coming to Miami to do a big photo shoot at the end of April. That's the plan right now, and we'll have a place on the beach and everything. So it'd be fun to see if we can get through your network, let them know about it.
Absolutely. I'm surprised that there's still magazines out. It's pretty cool that there's still people publishing stuff.
Yeah, right. Well, it's a print on demand, and of course the digital is also there. And one of the things that we do is what we really try to we offer the cover spot and like a 20-page feature inside to help market these women that have a business and maybe have a big story they want to share. So now they've got this beautiful publication that they can utilize. And then our social media manager comes through and makes really cool interactive pieces from the magazine that are really helpful on social media to get the word out. And about not just about BodyScape, but about the person, right? The client, the model, whoever it is with their business.
That's the one thing that I kind of miss about magazines. But by and far, there's nothing that the internet, it doesn't do better than magazines, except the art of actually photography. We don't see that anymore. Now everyone's shooting things on a cell phone, and there's very few photo shoots where people are actually commissioning photographers to do creative stuff. And you know how it is. Back in the day, you did a show and you did 40,000, well, especially you did 1 million photo shoots afterwards for the magazines. And that's just not the case anymore, And so that's the one thing that I think is it's like a lost art almost,
Well, you would love Sarah Lyons. I don't know did you ever meet Sarah Lyons?
Yeah.
Okay, so that she's publishing the magazine. It's her work, cool. And we still set up photo shoots and have photo shoots. So we've just been working together almost 2 years now. I'm associate editor now, not editor in chief, but associate editor. Thanks. It's been really fun just to pull our experiences together and create these wonderful experiences for other people. Sure. So it's fun. But I do miss all the magazine piece as well. So, okay, so I want to go into a little bit of how you got into bodybuilding. And I noticed somewhere that you might have been a runner.
Yeah. I was
a child. Like, how did you grow up and go from running to bodybuilding?
I was actually a soccer player for most of my childhood. I was one of these soccer players that was. I didn't have tremendous skills because I was everything came very easy to me, and I was a little on the lazy side. I went to practice and all that stuff, but I wasn't spending like I did with bodybuilding, 12 hours a day, practicing soccer. But I was very aggressive. I wasn't. My father instilled no fear in me, so I wasn't afraid of anyone. And a lot of times when kids play sports, they have that fear of impact, and So I was like a maniac on the soccer field. So I was very good because I was aggressive and I had skills, but I didn't have the skills to go to the World Cup or anything like that. So I did that for my whole childhood. And then I had, I think it was my junior year in high school, I had my appendix ruptured and I had to miss the soccer season. So I really got into running. I had done track and field, but I got into cross country running because it was a non-impact sport and I was good at it. And I liked it because it was like an individual type of thing. I didn't have to worry about the rest of the team. And, I was kind of like in a weird state because I had lost my mom at 14, 15 years old. She died of cancer. So I was kind of like in a weird, like, I was into like playing Dungeons and Dragons, like escape type stuff, like just not dealing with emotions and stuff like that. So I got into running, and I had like a partial scholarship to college for that. I went to Franklin and Marshall College, which is a small liberal arts college in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I was in the pre-med program there, and I was like a maniac runner, like 10 miles a day, never miss a day. It was like almost like laying the groundwork for bodybuilding, which is the same obsessive like of sport.
Right.
So of course, at some point after I graduated college, I realized I'm never going to get a date at 135 pounds because I was starving myself to be light. Because you run, the lighter you are, the better you run. That's just the way it is. And so I wanted to look like a runner. So I molded my body, which I had a lot of natural muscle in high school. I actually lost weight to get down to have that like, emaciated runner's look. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to start lifting weights because kind of the season's over, the running is done, so to speak. And I went the other direction. I said, now I want to get huge. I want to look like, first I want to look like Stallone and Rambo and the Rocky movies. Then, of course, it was Schwarzenegger and Lee Haney. And so I went the other direction, but I used a lot of, I went to medical school for 3 years before I dropped out for other avenues. And I took the science, that I had been studying and was applying it, to bodybuilding, eating right, enough protein, carbs, fat, the right supplements and stuff like that. And I was changing the way I looked, how it works when you first start working out. It's like crazy. And I was completely consumed with the fact that I can alter my body given the right science and applying it properly. To me, it was very empowering. I think that, at some stage, a lot of us go through where we feel unempowered by life. We feel like, we have no control of it. Maybe you'll lose a loved one or something. Whenever something happens, you don't feel empowered. And so that gave me a feeling of strength, I think, like a lot of us do, from bodybuilding we garnish. And so I just embraced it and I loved it. It was intoxicating, actually. And that's how I got bit by the iron bug, just changing my body and seeing how as I improved muscularly speaking and changed the way I looked, I got more confident with that. And I think that's really when I kind of came into my own and started believing myself again. Mm-hmm. And that's an empowering type of thing for a teenager to say to himself, okay, you know what? I feel like I have control over my life now and that I can control things, and then apply it to the rest of the aspects of your life, business. And I started making money in bodybuilding. I started writing for the magazines because I had a really good educational background. So to me, bodybuilding really set the stage for everything else I was going to do later in life.
Well, no wonder you're so passionate about this and getting the word out. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize all of that. Yeah. It had to be really hard to lose your mom at 14. I mean, I'm 50 and I'm like, I can't think about, not having my mom available.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I think, different people deal with grief in a different way. I was a kind of person that would emotionally wall off everything. So I just wouldn't deal with it. Thinking, well, I'm a tough son of a bitch. I don't have to deal with this and I can get through this. And the problem is that eventually you can bury emotions as deep as you want them. Eventually they creep up to the surface and they break through and they say, aha, we're here. And so at some point, later, like, 20 years down the road, I had to deal with it. And I did, but the point is that that's how I dealt with it, by just trying to make myself stronger and stronger and stronger. And so some people turn to drugs. Luckily right. I didn't go that direction. And so
yeah, you used your bodybuilding was your drug, I guess, of choice. Right. Yeah. So how did you go? How did you get involved with writing for the magazines? Was that after you'd been competing for a while, or was that kind of simultaneously starting up?
I had a lot of knowledge when I first started and launched into this whole thing because that's how I am. I wanted to know everything about everything. I immersed myself in it, and I was consuming everything I can get, all of Bill Phillips magazines and books he was writing, and Scott Connolly. And I just loved the science of because I had a very good educational background. Because in med school, they basically jam everything you could possibly ever want to know into your brain, even if you're never going to use it. So I had all this information there, and I just, now I had a reason to apply it. And so I kind of knew what I was doing, but my physique didn't dictate I knew what I was doing because I just started out, right? So I'm adding like 25 pounds of muscle a year. So after like the third year of doing that, I went from like 138, 140. I was up to like 240, 245. Now people starting to say, what the heck is this guy doing? He looks like a different person, you know? So now people are asking me questions. So I'm giving out a lot of advice. Now this is the beginning of when the internet really starts, you know, like, so I started writing, you know, on a couple of message boards, and I think a lot of people
the late 90s.
Yeah, mid 90s. This is early 90s, mid 90s.
Okay.
And I think I don't know if I wrote or someone asked me. Someone had recommended me to, I don't know if it was Flex magazine or something like that, or maybe I think I started writing for a website called Mesomorphosis. It was like a drug, like they talked about anabolics on there and stuff like that. And I had read Bill Phillips' Anabolic Reference Guide probably 600 times. I probably knew the book better than he did, and I had never even taken it. I had never even taken an anabolic steroid at that point. You know, but I knew everything about them, and I knew how they worked and everything like that. So when I started taking them, I was I knew exactly what I was going to do. And so when I started writing about it online, people didn't have information on this, and they were like, they loved it. I would do a Q&A. And the site would pay me once a month to do this thing. And I think a couple of the magazines caught wind that I was very popular. So I started getting like, you know, articles commissioned by Flex, by this magazine or that, and I need to write for this one. And so I started becoming, you know, kind of well known in terms of my knowledge base. And I was helping a lot of guys. There was no coaching back then. I would just help guys for free. They'd come over to my house and we would just hang out, and I would do their diets for them and tell them, you know, what to eat and what to do and get them ready for shows. And that was the beginning of coaching, but no one was charging for that. You know, they were your buddies, that you hung out with them. And so I kind of got a reputation not only of you know, of writing and coaching aspect, but I was like the guy to go for information. And I think that was something that was in very short supply. Now everyone's a guru nowadays, but back then there was very few people who knew anything about anything. And so that gave me a unique niche, because I wasn't just a guy who was competing now and who looked good and who always came in condition, but I was a guy actually who was able to give information and science information that made sense and explain to people how things worked mechanistically. And you know, my dad was a teacher, you know, for 35 years. So I kind of got that ability, I guess, to break very complex, you know, concepts into very simplistic terms for people to understand. And that's, you know, that's a skill that I was born with, that I got, like I said, from my dad. But so that gave me a unique niche. So now I knew, you know what, I have a niche in bodybuilding that no one else has, that even if I don't, you know, of course, everyone wants to win the Mr. Olympia when you first start training, right? But even if I knew that, even if I never won anything, I would be able to make money. And my goal always was that I wanted to be able to do something that my parents couldn't do, which was to have a job where I made money and had an ability to make unlimited amounts of money based on how hard I worked, doing something I liked. Not doing a job just for the sake of getting a paycheck. Because I knew that if I did something that I liked, it would never feel like work. And I loved bodybuilding. And I said, I want to make a living from this thing. I didn't know how that was going to transpire. I thought it meant getting a pro card and competing as a pro.
Right.
And I found out that wasn't necessarily true. If you found a niche for yourself in this industry, you know, that you can make a very good living from yourself, not from competing, because very few people made money from competing.
Right. I know about that.
Well, you made money both ways, but I mean, you made way more money from not just from signing pictures and being popular than ever winning prize money. You know, that's for sure.
Way more money. Yeah. I remember back in the day being able to go to the Arnold and just selling 8x10s and coming home with $5,000 cash.
I've never seen anyone sell more pictures than you. I thought that, you know, Ronnie Coleman had big lines. You would be there. Monica would be at the Arnold Classic. They would be done for the day, and they'd be cleaning up, and she'd still have 100 people waiting online. You would go nonstop from the minute it opened up to the minute it closed. I don't know how you did it, to be honest with you.
I think it's just, you know, I've always had a heart for people. I love people. I love relationship building, caring for people. And it's just something that is part of my nature. And it was always hard to say no to people, you know, because I knew how excited the one person was. And this one person, like you would see the person 10 feet, 10 people back, and that person already had tears in their eyes or so excited, couldn't wait to have me sign their magazine or something. And it was such a frustration for me when the company started handing out all the free stuff And then they wanted you to do all the free stuff. And I'm like, you guys are taking away us as athletes, another opportunity where we can make money. But again, that's a whole nother.
You know how much money you and I would have made though on like YouTube, back if it was today's world and we were doing what we were doing during our heyday. Because I was over 300 pounds and I was lean in the off season. If I was filming my workouts and putting stuff up on YouTube, I would have like 3 million followers, probably 3 million subscribers on my YouTube channel.
If I had a video for every cover shoot that I did.
Think about that. Yeah.
I mean, I barely have one from this shoot, and it wasn't even supposed to be a cover. So we just got a little footage of it. Kona actually did the beautiful little video, but that's the only one I have. And I'm like,
right. But think about when you were 25, if you would have been like doing your makeup in the mirror and cooking your food, you would have had millions of people following you back then, because you had millions of people reading the magazine to get information about you. And so it was a different world though.
Well, I did 2 DVDs. Well, they were VHS tapes and turned into DVDs.
No one even knows what VHS tapes are.
I know, right? Well, yeah, and so one of them, Mitsuru did. I think I was the only female that he did, because he did all of the bodybuilder stuff, and he did one with me in '98 when I won the Olympia, and then a couple of years later, I did another video called Fast Forward, and it was just basically all like reality stuff that I was going through and doing. And I think in that video, there's one cover shoot video for this one right here, this pink Muscle Fitness Hers. Mm-hmm. They allowed my videographer to come in and film while I was shooting, but they were like really uptight about it. That can't be out anywhere. No one can see it. And I'm like, I know it's not going to come out for a while anyways, but I got to, so that's the only one, but that was back in the day. And that video came out. So I had people buying those videos, and they were kind of the reality videos before reality was a thing.
Sure. No, you were like a headliner for sure. I remember.
Thank you.
I remember. My ex-wife at the time was doing like figure type modeling too, and she was competing around the same time you. And I remember she did a photo shoot with you, and that was like the highlight of her life. I mean, because you were like a big star, and she was actually in the magazine with you, and you guys had a great layout together.
Was it Flex or something?
Yeah, it was Flex. Yeah, it was like
was it like one of the bikini issues?
Yeah, it was like one of those issues, and it was. I was like, holy, that's and you were. I mean, you were a very big name at the time.
What was her name?
Barbara Moran.
Yeah. Yes, I remember Barbara. We were in black. It was 90. I think that was the first year that and I don't know if that was the first issue they ever did of the bikini issue.
I think it was. Yeah,
I think so too. Right. Because I shot every year for 10 years, and then all of a sudden things started changing in IFBB, and they were unhappy with me. So I never, they pulled me out of that. But every year for 10 years, I remember Barbara, and I remember the photo shoot on the beach and in the water and the black and. Yeah, good memories.
Good old times.
Oh, all times. I know. There were some really amazing. I mean, there's been a lot of amazing days since. But when you look back, and I know, when I look back, it's like some of those days were just so. They feel so special. They feel so unique and slower paced. Yet there was still a lot going on, and it's just like great memories of this building of this industry that. Has exploded, but we were really, all of us that were in that were the pioneers, past the kind of the first era with Arnold and them. And then we were kind of like this second chapter, if you will. And now this is, I don't know what this is right now. It's, chaos, but
well, when you went to the gym, when I went to the gym back then, my goal was to work out.
Right.
Because there was nothing else to do at the gym.
No videos.
Now,
no
it's
stories.
like, you feel almost guilty if you don't capture enough video when you go to the gym on your phone, because it's like, I wasted a whole day at the gym. I didn't shoot 4,000 videos there to put up on Instagram. You know what I mean? You can't even relax anywhere you go. I'm always like, I should be putting something on my story for Instagram. I'm like, I'm the worst. I almost feel like I have like guilt, like associated with the fact that I'm not putting up enough stuff. And it's like, sometimes it gets overwhelming. It's like, all right, enough is enough. How much stuff am I going to put up already? We put up 1 million videos on RX Muscle on a daily basis. Now I got to worry about Instagram and Facebook and now they have TikTok. I mean, it's like, it's never ending. There's a never ending barrage of material that you feel obligated to put up, because if you don't, it's like you're not doing enough for the fans,
Well, I was just on a 3-day Zoom meeting with one of the companies that I'm endorsed through. and they had all of this information about the company and the new stuff coming out and all of this. So, and then they did this whole couple hours of social media instruction, which is great, but now they've got this term UCG, and I was like, what is that? I had to look it up, and it means user content or something like this. But it just basically is about me getting content to the company as opposed to them hiring a marketing, photographer and all of this. And and they were talking like, oh yeah, every day you should be posting on your story and and I was just like, and I'm telling you, all of the athletes that are on this, we have an Olympic athlete who's won in the Olympics in the running. I can't remember his event, but all top like Spartan racing athletes, death race athletes, all of these are top of their game, and all of them are just like, how do we keep up with it? So it's not just you and me. It's like, these are athletes, because they're the same thing. They're like out climbing these massive mountains and hanging upside down from rocks.
I got to pull my cell phone out while I'm doing it and take a picture of myself while I'm doing it, fall off the mountain because I'm not paying attention.
Or they have to have someone. I was like, I feel like I need to hire a full-time, person to tag around with me and make sure they get all my stuff.
And then you feel guilty because the person's like, they don't like their job that they're doing, and I gotta worry about people like, not being happy with what they're doing. I'm trying to pay them salary and they're not happy with what they're doing.
Oh goodness, Dave, I think we could be on for a long time. So we probably have, Okay, so I want to kind of get back to bodybuilding a little bit here. Can you tell me what you thought about when you were competing? What was the most satisfying piece of it when you look back? Like, was it the prep? Was it the stage? Was it the helping other people? Was it becoming a bodybuilding celebrity? Like, which part of that do you look back thinking that was the most satisfying part for me? Or was there one?
This girl who I hadn't talked to, she was in when I went to high school, she was in my whole elementary school, high school years. She was in, she was just someone who was in all my classes. I never thought, I knew her, but I wasn't friends with her. She Facebooked me the other day. She's like, oh, it's so-and-so. And, oh, I saw you on the East Meadow High School Facebook group. They were talking about you as one of the celebrities from high school.
You're like a celebrity, yeah.
Like celebrities. She sends me this link to the Wikipedia page for my high school, and I'm like one of 3 or 4 the most famous people at East Meadow High School. And I'm thinking to myself, what? That to me was. It's stupid as it sounds. I actually feel like I was validated for some reason. If East Meadow High School said that I'm important, I must be important, right?
Yes, you are.
All the people in high school that probably thought I was an idiot or something like that, or was was nothing in high school. Now all of a sudden they think I'm a celebrity. So, but that was it. Look, it's always nice to be validated by your peers, right? I mean, and. Obviously, I don't do this for validation from peers. I do what I do because I enjoy doing it. I said right from the beginning, if I can do something I like, I'll be the hardest worker of all time. I work, my wife runs all the companies, Species Nutrition. She does the books for RX Muscle. I breed snakes now. She runs that whole company. I mean, we're a team effort, but I mean, the bottom line is I get to do what I like and make money from it. So we work, nonstop because we're doing what we like and we're getting paid for it. So, it's like I always say, you don't really have a job if you enjoy what you're doing.
Right.
And so that process is very satisfying to me that I was able to do that. People say, what jobs have you had, throughout your life? And I had only 2 jobs my whole life that are real jobs. I worked as a movie usher for 1 summer between college and high school and college. And I got fired because I used to let my friends sneak in the back door. I only lasted 6 weeks. And the second job was I worked at a Petland Discounts and cleaning, bird poops and hamster poops and cleaning fish tanks. But I love doing that. I enjoy. I have a lot of fish tanks myself, and so it really wasn't a job. But that was my 2 jobs my whole life, and everything else was. I worked for myself essentially. I worked for Muscle Development, but I was kind of like a freelance person in the sense I didn't really. I had guidelines, but I didn't have anyone looking over me and telling me what to do. So to me, that was the most satisfying part of my career. As far as competing goes, probably placing second at the USA. in 2003 was probably the highlight, because I felt like that was the best I ever looked, and I probably should have won, or at least got a pro card at that show. And, there were other shows that I felt like, I arrived and stuff like that, and then I got a lot of validation from. But that probably was the highlight, in terms of, placings go. But, being one of the first amateur guys to be, over 300 pounds and lean, probably was something that was kind of more validating for me, because when I walked around, people said, "This guy knows what he's talking. Look how huge he is." When I would go places, people would I didn't even know it. People would say, "Did you see that guy stay?" The whole crowd was staring at you. I said, "They weren't," because I didn't even know how big I was. It didn't register in my mind, that, I'd gotten up to like 319 or something like that at one point, at 5'10".
Wow.
Which was big. And, I never got fat. I had a very fast metabolism, probably from all the years of running. So, I was like very popular in the gyms because of how huge and freaky I was. And that's why I did probably more guest posings than a lot of pros did, even though I never turned pro, because I was always in shape. And, the crowds wanted to see freaky guest posers back then.
Right.
And I would do a seminar too, because I had that ability. So for me, that was the most gratifying. The fact that I can travel every weekend, people were paying my way to do this, and they were actually paying me to get up there and guest pose for 2 minutes. And that's why I made all my contacts with all the promoters and people around the country, because I was traveling every single weekend, for at least 5 or 6 years like that. And in 2002 and 2003, I think I did combined. I think I did 65 guest posing appearances or something like that. It was crazy.
Wow. So
that was fun. I really enjoyed that a lot. It definitely helps your ego when you're the guest poser, with the show. Definitely kind of validates you as being someone important, So ego-wise, that was the most satisfying. Believe it or not, my post, competition years, I think, were way more gratifying what I'm doing now, because then I was able to take all that knowledge I got while I was competing and everything and apply it, because you cannot run a business while you're competing. It's just too freaking hard.
Right.
Because you're so consumed with yourself and how you look and get into the gym and tanning and eating. You can't. So once I retired, that's when I started Species Nutrition, which was my nutrition company that I still have today, which has been growing progressively every single year since I started it. And that's when I started, got involved with the media websites. I actually started Muscular Development's website. Steve Bleckman had hired me to really launch their website and create a media presence for them. And then after 3 years with him, I started RX Muscle. So, that gave me way more gratification, even though necessarily, it wasn't bodybuilding in the sense of how big can I get. I already proved how big I can get. At some point, I said to myself, you know what? If I keep going like this, I'm going to die young, and I don't want to die young. I see myself living a long life, probably suffering for a while. I'll be like my dad. I'll be like a chronic complainer, but I knew I was going to live a long life, but I knew I couldn't do it at 300 pounds. So I started downsizing, and then I really focused all that passion and energy that I had for building muscle and being a bodybuilder into covering the sport. Never neglecting my health or working out. I still work out and I still eat right, but building muscle is not my priority now. It's being healthy and feeling good,
So maybe this is a real important piece to touch on, because I know I hear this all the time. And I was one of the first people to become pro fitness IFBB from the very beginning, because I was in fitness before IFBB had fitness. So I ended up, competing the first Olympia. We had won the Jantana, which was non-sanctioned event, but then I was just a pro. So nowadays it's I hear this all the time, oh, I gotta be a pro, I'm work to be a pro. And I still hear that from the women that I talk to.
Right.
So how do you feel like you used not turning a pro for 16 years? 16 shows? 16 shows.
I think
how did you?
I don't know how many shows I think I competed for 13 years, but
Sorry. So how did you? My question is, how did you use that to fuel yourself? Because I know that. I didn't win a show for 12 years. I won the '98 Olympia, and then I didn't win something until I got out of IFBB almost 15 years later.
Yeah, well, because they screwed you millions of times over. But
another
point,
topic.
Yeah, the point is not turning me pro for whatever reason they didn't do it. Whether it was political, personal, I don't know what it was. Yeah. Whatever reason I didn't turn pro, because I probably should have, even though I'm not saying I had the greatest physique, and I'm not saying I would have been a great pro. I'm just saying I should have turned pro. But
at least turn pro.
Yeah. But not turning pro was a blessing, and I'll tell you why. Because by them constantly kind of screwing me the way they did with you, just kind of like just missing, it made me very popular. Yes. And with the fans, because I became and because I probably never would have been a great pro, being a top amateur and keeping me in the amateur ranks made me way more popular. So people were rooting for me to turn pro. You know what I mean? They wanted to see me because I was the biggest guy on stage, usually not the best shape, but the biggest guy with the best conditioning, always. No one would deny that. So that made me very popular. Okay. Also, not turning me pro did one other great thing for me. If I would have gotten a pro card, I would have never stopped competing because I would have felt, all right, now I got to go to the next level and I got to see how far I could take it. I probably would have damaged my health. So I stopped because I said, you know what? They're never going to give me a pro card. I had shoulder problems. I couldn't really get myself better than I was. And I always said to myself, if I can't be better than I was the year before, then I'm not going to compete anymore. So I stopped. I made a conscious effort to say, all right, that's it. And it was probably because I didn't turn pro. So in essence, whatever the universe had in store for me, it was the fact that I didn't turn pro prevented me from doing damage to my body, or further damage. Who knows what damage I've done, but I think I'm in pretty good health. But, everyone has their own little ailments here and there. But I probably would have done serious health damages to myself because I would have kept pushing. So it allowed me to take the next step in whatever my evolution was as a person, to start focusing on, like I said, starting my nutrition company, which I wanted to do, starting a media website, which I was doing without consciously even doing it. But it pushed me in another direction. So what I'll tell people is that nowadays turning pro means nothing because they give out pro cards like candy. Back when, in the 90s and early 2000s, it was very hard to get a pro card. So it meant a little bit more. So for me, it was kind of like I wanted the validation, like almost like a diploma from college, but I realized that it really wasn't necessary because I knew I wasn't going to be Mr. Olympia anyway. So I'm like, who cares if I have a pro? It's probably better that I could say I'm one of the best guys never to turn pro. At least it makes me more special. If I would have gotten a pro card like at the Masters Nationals or something like that, placing second in my class, who cares? I would have just been another statistic. So it actually made me kind of stick out. Oh, Dave he never got his pro card. He should have, It's like kind of like what they say about Matt Mendenhall. Or Rory Liedemeier. Everyone's, those guys should have been pros too. So it made me more popular, number one. And number two, it kept me safe in terms of health-wise. And so I believe that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. But we all want things to happen the way we think we want them to happen. But, sometimes you have to just understand that the universe has a plan for us and you got to roll with the punches, so to speak. And just understand that, at least this is how I view my life, that nothing happens by accident. There's an intelligent design behind it, and you have to just find the meaning behind what's happening to you. And if once you do that, you don't feel like you have bad luck anymore. You just feel like, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be. Now I have to adjust and modify my game plan to go along with what fate has handed me.
Well, you're a smart man, and you definitely have utilized so many aspects of your past and have created something really, really awesome for yourself and your family and people that are watching you and learning from you. So with that, I have a handful of phrases or words that I wanted to kind of just give you, and I wanted to see what your initial, and it doesn't have to be long, but your initial kind of information back on it. Now, these are not the rapid fire questions. These are just kind of like, I wanted to give the viewers some good old, not old, but old.
Should I eat a legendary food? Pasty.
Oh, yes. Yes. Now I haven't. Okay. So
she doesn't have birthday cake. I have birthday cake. Look at that.
I know. And I need to go get mine. Because Dave, I don't know if you realize I'm a cakeaholic.
I didn't know that.
I am a cakeaholic. I'm a confessed cakeaholic. So yeah, we have legendary foods, and this is one of my favorite desserts. Just while we're talking about it.
I love that. Is that the one with the blueberries in it?
Well, I like that one. This one's their pecan pie almond butter.
Oh, and I like the blueberries. What is it? Cinnamon blueberries or something?
Yes, like that? It does taste just like a cinnamon roll too. It's crazy. Yeah. Okay, so just to give my viewers a little bit of educational tips and advice from Dave Palumbo. Okay. So these are all have to do with either nutrition or training. And it doesn't need to be a big thing, but just like your initial, like if you had to give like maybe couple sentences, or, So if you have someone ask you about intermittent fasting or fasting water only, what's your advice on that?
Well, for bodybuilding purposes and building muscle, fasting is not the right way to go. For longevity purposes, I think, maybe going, 12 to 18 hours a day without eating, which I call intermittent fasting, is probably good for longevity, living a long time, maybe being a little healthier, eating up some visceral body fat. But if you want to build muscle and maximize muscle and you're competing, that's not the way to lose weight. That's the way you lose muscle. So, I'm not a big believer in like the water fasts and stuff like that. I have a program that I give out to free to people. If they just contact me, I send it to them. It's a 3-week detox. I read a book called Clean, and it basically it explained why water fasts for a week are not necessarily the healthiest thing to do, and that you can detox your body in 3 weeks while still eating foods, but being very restrictive in what you eat and when you eat the foods. And so I created a whole protocol for bodybuilders who want to detox and cleanse their body, so they won't lose muscle, but they'll still have the same regenerative effect on the digestive system and the cleansing of the body. And so if anyone reaches out to me, a huge 285 at AOL.com, I'll send you that program, no problem. Because I believe in, paying it forward, so to speak, so that people can be healthier.
Speaking of that, have you ever heard of the Daniel fast?
No. What does that involve?
Well, Daniel is a prophet from the Old Testament. And he's the reason the Daniel fast, they call it the Daniel fast, is because he only ate in part of the prophecy, part of his story where he was waiting to hear from the Lord, because he was a prophet, God's prophet.
Yeah, sure.
And he was waiting to hear from the Lord, and they finally, an angel, a messenger of God, showed up to tell him God's word for him. It took 3 weeks for the angel to show up to Daniel, and he said, I was wrestling 3 weeks with the devil, basically, to get to Daniel. And while Daniel was waiting to hear the Lord's voice and the message that he was supposed to receive, he only ate vegetables and had, like no wine or anything. It was like literally just vegetables and water. And so people nowadays will call that the Daniel fast, and they'll do that for 3 weeks. And so it could be there's a whole, like, that was how many thousands of years ago, right?
The Bible is, look, a lot of the Bible stuff was done for health purposes, like,
you
like
have a
kosher.
clear mind, right? When you're not cluttered down with all the junk food and all the,
where do you think the kosher rules come from? The kosher rules are because people got sick when they ate like crayfish and scavenger fish, or if they ate like pork and stuff like that. That's why they made those rules. They weren't arbitrary. They were smart, in that sense. So yeah, I think a 3-week type of detox is the right exact way to do it, and with low protein, like you said. And I think that's but like I said, I've been doing that for guys and girls, and believe me, your blood work reflects it after 3 weeks. It's amazing, the whites of your eyes, how white they get after doing this detox. It's unbelievable.
Maybe I need to get it from you.
I'll send it to you. You'll love it.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to see that. All right, keto lifestyle. Just quick answer. Keto lifestyle.
I'm the ketogenic diet guy. I'm the one who really popularized it among bodybuilders.
Awesome.
People call me the ketogenic diet guy, and I don't even give it to everyone. I just was the guy who really first made it popular in bodybuilding circles. And my ketogenic diet is a high protein, moderate fat, not high fat, low protein, because the high fat, low protein is a medical ketogenic diet. And that's not going to work well for people who work out, who have a higher protein demand because they break down muscle tissue. So I'm a big believer in a ketogenic diet, because I think it keeps the mind clear. I think it's the brain operates well on ketones. You don't have cravings, you don't have mood swings, and so I'm a huge advocate in that.
What are your top, speaking of that, what would be your top maybe 5 proteins and top 5 fats?
For protein, obviously it's the usual. It's, eggs, and I like whole eggs, chicken, fish, lean red meats, and whey. That's probably my top 5. Fat sources, I'm a huge, once again, whole eggs I like for, some saturated fats. And I believe in omega-3 eggs. So there's a lot of omega-3 fats in there as well. Salmon, I like fatty fishes for fats. Nuts like almonds, cashews, walnuts. and avocados, and I'm a huge advocate of macadamia nut oil. Matter of fact, I make actually a brand of it because it's very hard to get macadamia nut oil in today's marketplace. And the reason I like macadamia nut oil is because it's higher in monounsaturated fats than olive oil, and it's not light sensitive, it doesn't go rancid. And the best part about it is you can cook with it. A lot of people don't realize, I'm Italian, so I know this. You can't cook with olive oil, it burns.
Right.
Macadamia nut oil has a very high smoke point, and it tastes like butter. So it's really the magical fat that does everything. You take that, a couple tablespoons out a day, look at your cholesterol profiles, and they will be amazing. And you'll feel good. Your skin and hair will be amazing. So we make a brand of that from Species Nutrition.
Okay, I need to get that too because I love macadamia nut, and
I'll send you some. You send me your address. I
would love that. And I did read about macadamia nuts being the best nut for keto because, and my understanding was because of the fats versus carb kind of.
They're very low in carbs, the macadamia nuts, but the oil is better. I just have people put the oil on like salads and vegetables and stuff like that. Beautiful.
What do you think about ghee or Kerrygold butter?
Yeah, I mean that's like I have a lot of Indian clients. They use that. You know what the problem with saturated fats are, and there are some good saturated fats. Obviously, coconut oil is good saturated fat. Ghee would fall into that category. The problem is that if you're dieting and you have a limited amount of fat you can take into your diet, while even medium chain fats like coconut oil, they're good burning fats and they produce energy well. They don't really have any health benefits. So if I'm going to put fats in a person's diet, I'd rather give them stuff that actually is going to help their cholesterol profiles, help their heart health. So I like a lot of monounsaturates, extra virgin olive oil, macadamia nut oil, avocado oil, avocados, stuff like nuts, because that's going to those are what we call essential fatty acids that the body actually is going to need to use that they can't make on their own. If you're using up the fat content that you're going to normally have in your diet, let's say you need 60 grams a day or 70 grams a day on a keto diet, and you're using medium chain fats that have no value other than energy, it's kind of like you're not getting as much bang for your buck out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. I'm thinking I had oil. Okay, so you just mentioned, and I know that I learned not to cook with olive oil. So you're talking about putting olive oil on after something's cooked or on your salad or whatever, right?
Right. That's fine.
And I've had that conversation with people for so long, and people look at me so crazy, like, really? I'm like,
you know what? There's so much fake olive oil in our marketplace that I don't trust it anymore. To be honest with you, they put soybean oil in there and they say it's olive oil, but it's not. And there was a study that someone did, and they tested all these olive oils, like top name brands, and they were like 80% like soybean oil. So I just don't trust the olive oil. And once again, macadamia oil tastes so much better than olive oil. And I'm Italian, so it's hard for me to say that, but it does. Mac oil is like butter, and I'm telling you.
Oh, I can't wait to get yours. I can't wait, and I will do a story with it. Once you try it,
you will never stop using it. I promise you. I promise you.
I will do a story with it too. I will be like, Dave.
I'm telling you, you think I'm very passionate about what I do, but you're going to try. You could be like, holy mackerel, he's right. This stuff is great.
Holy macaroni, not macaroni, macadamia. Holy macadamia nut. Right. Okay. Before we go any further, I just want to make sure I'm conscious of your timing because I still have awesome stuff I want to talk to you about, but I need to know from you because I know how I am, and it sounds like we both could talk a lot. So do we still have some time? Are we good on time?
10 more minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes.
I'm sorry?
Let's do 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. Oh,
15,
boy. Okay.
15 minutes.
Then I'm going to go one sentence. Glute training for women. What's your favorite?
Look, you know what? I work with a lot of bikini girls. And they all, are brainwashed by watching some of these YouTube videos and these people online, these experts, I have a guy who tells me he's a wellness expert. He's a wellness coach expert. I don't know what that means exactly because you know what the truth is? Training is training. If you're doing bikini or you're doing bodybuilding, the training is the same. It's just the level of muscularity that you're going to bring your body to. But you know that when girls first start out, I always tell girls, train like you want to be Miss Olympia in bodybuilding because you're never going to be that big anyway. Okay. Mm-hmm. So once you get to the size that you're at, then you can do more maintenance training. But very few people have too much muscle, right off the bat. So if you want to build glutes, squat. That's the best way to develop glutes. You're not going to build big glutes if you're like doing kickbacks with, with a cable. You can't do it. It's not enough stimulation. You might tighten the muscle a little and create a little bit of mass if you have nothing there, but you're not going to get the look that you're looking for. Most women they show me pictures of you and they say, I want to look like her. And but I don't want to, I like the way she is. She's not too big. So I'm doing like 1,000 rep, kickbacks and the butt blaster machine. I'm like, she squats. She trains like a bodybuilder. She always has. I said, she's got a lot of muscle. Just because she's petite doesn't mean she doesn't have a lot of muscle. People don't understand what it takes to actually replace the fat in their butt with muscle. Okay, which is what you want to do. So you have a tight butt, not just a saggy little butt. So for bikini, the glute muscle is probably one of the most important parts of the physique. If you don't want something that's just going to hang there like loose, okay, especially as you diet, you got to put muscle there. And the only way to put muscle there is to train it. Squats, lunges, you have to put weight on your body and challenge the muscle, or it's not going to get bigger and make shape improvements. Mm-hmm. And that's something that just people don't ever want to realistically address, but it's the truth. Even deadlifts, like wide stance, like sumo deadlifts are great for glutes. You don't have to be deadlifting 400 pounds, but you have to do the movement because that's what builds muscle in that area.
Right. I like doing movements that feel athletic too. Mm-hmm. And for me, years and years and years on the track running sprints, because I did sprinting for all just conditioning stuff. And then I started competing in sprints and I, really dove into like the track drills and learning how to engage the glutes for sprinting purposes. And it changed my glutes, I felt later in my 40s.
It changed your muscle-mind muscle connection to it, but the muscle you built from that was from weight training. And
right.
That's what people have to understand. In other words, when you have the muscle already and now you start doing different types of training, that's a different story. But you're not going to build. In other words, people start out wanting to do advanced workouts, thinking that, okay, Monica sprints, I'm going to sprint and I'm going to build glutes. No, you're not.
Going to pull a hamstring.
No, you're not. You're not. Yeah, you're going to pull your hamstring and that's it. You're going to have nothing there. So you got to weight train to put the muscle there first, and then you can play around with tweaking it and refining it and getting the nuances of what we call muscle maturity.
All right, good information. Without going into big, because I want to be conscious of time, and I would like to get through. I want to do the rapid fire questions. It'll be fun. Sprints versus long distance LSD, long slow distance. Do you like both? Or
I always ask people when they come to me and they say, Dave, can you help me? What kind of cardio should I be doing? I say, well, what's your goal?
Okay.
Are you going to compete in running, triathlons, CrossFit, or you just want to look good for getting on stage? And 99% of the people tell me I just want to look good on stage. I said, well, then you should be doing long, steady state cardio, long, slow distances, like you said. And why is that? Because when you're doing, a lower intensity cardio, you're burning fat as a fuel source. When you raise the intensity level to a certain threshold, whatever that be, it's different in every person, and your heart rate has to beat faster and faster and faster. Now your body can't generate ATP or energy quick enough using fat, as a fuel source, and your body has to switch to carbohydrate metabolism. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing high intensity cardio, you're using carbs as a fuel source, which is fine. It's still, ratcheting up your metabolism, but you're not burning stored body fat as the fuel for that. So if you're trying to maximize muscle, on your body, and you're trying to minimize body fat, steady state cardio is the best way to go because you're using only fat as a fuel source. You might have to do it a little longer, duration, but you're at least you're not burning up muscle. Because if you're on a very low carb diet and you're doing high intensity cardio and your body requires carbs as a fuel source, your body's going to take muscle and break it down and use the amino acids to turn it into glucose as a fuel source. We don't want that. Right. We want to preserve muscle. So in that sense, steady state cardio is absolutely the way to go for physique competition athletes.
Gotcha. Okay. And with that said, do you have a percentage of highs and lows for heart rate? Would you still give somebody 50% or 40% or 70%?
I find on the average, and this is, of course, is going to change for people's age, about 135 beats per minute. If you stay under that, you're in pretty good shape, I think, in terms of not losing or getting into the muscle.
And that's pretty average, right?
And that's average. The problem is that whenever I say that, it's here's what happens. The person goes and takes a pre-workout, they drink an energy drink and a cup of coffee, and before they even start working out, they're at 125 beats a minute. Right. So that doesn't work sometimes. So sometimes I'll just say, look, if you're walking on a treadmill, 3.2 to 3.8 miles per hour is usually adequate. And sometimes because I know people who are stim freaks and their heart rate is up so high already that if you say 135, it's like they're barely walking and they're at that. You know?
And then of course for me, like as I was conditioned more, that was really it was really hard to
get it up close to that probably.
Yeah, so I'd have to do more. So love the treadmills that go super high so you can go really slow and I can read a book. That was my old favorite.
I tell people it's 135 beats per minute max. So if you're under, you're fine. It's when you go over that, that's when you're starting to use carbohydrates as so even if you're in great shape, you might only be at 95 beats a minute, but you're still burning fat. It's when you stop burning fat. Okay, as soon as you start moving, you're burning fat. When you go too high of an intensity, you stop burning fat. So as a fuel source, so that's the key. It's keeping it under that. You don't have to be at 135. You just have to be under 135.
Gotcha. That's good. Good. What about protein amounts for different ages? Do you still go by 1 gram of lean body pound per gram? I mean, is that still kind of the average for you? And because the other thing is I've heard like when you get older, maybe you shouldn't be taking in as much protein. So, because I'm 50 now.
Right. I eat almost no protein a day. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I eat probably 100 grams of protein a day.
You eat protein in this?
Nothing. I eat like nothing. But it varies. Some days I'll eat 200. Some days I'll eat 100. And you know what I find? I don't lose any muscle. Because you know why? My muscle is there. I'm not looking to add new muscle. Matter of fact, I downsized quite a bit over the last 15 years purposely because I didn't want to be that heavy because it was putting a strain on my body, I felt. Now that I'm at a certain weight, I don't need to eat a lot of protein to maintain that. However, if I was trying to add muscle, I would certainly have to go back to that 1 gram per pound, 1.5 grams per pound, and 1.5 grams of protein per pound to get my body to force it to grow. So the question is, what is your goal? If I'm working with someone who's 50 years old who says to me, I want to still add more muscle, I want to improve, I'm still competing, this is something that I'm passionate, then you got to eat the 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound. If I'm working with someone who's like, Dave, I just want to lose weight, I want to lose body fat, and I want to just stay healthy, I'll keep their protein lower, And so it really depends on the person's goals, I think.
That's awesome. And one last for this round, sleep. How do you talk about sleep?
What's that? I don't know what sleep is.
I know, right? Like, do you ever sleep?
I went to bed at 4:30 in the morning. I finished my emails because my kids everyone else's kids go to bed 7:30 at night. My kids go to bed at 11:30, 12 o'clock. I don't know how they stay up so late. They're 1, 3, and 5. The 1-year-old's up later than all of them. So I don't know what sleep is. My wife and I haven't experienced sleep in 5 years since my son was born. But I slept a lot before I had kids, so I think I'm okay, But for growing and recovering, I say 7 to 9 hours a night is great. Okay. I used to do 8 hours a night, and then I would do an hour nap when I was in my heyday, and I had no responsibilities whatsoever, and I could do whatever I wanted.
That doesn't happen nowadays.
No, not anymore.
No. I know there's some days I'm like, I just love to lay down for 30 minutes and just like get off my feet and let the brain rest. And if I can make that happen, but it's very
I fall asleep in the dentist chair when they're cleaning my teeth. The hygienist is like, I've never seen anyone sleep through an entire cleaning. I said, that's how tired I am,
Oh my gosh. I have 2 questions and I want to do the rapid fire just for fun. And I want to share something about one of my sponsors with you too. So those are my topics here, my things to wrap this up. Can you tell me what makes Species Nutrition different? I know you talked about the macadamia nut oil, which awesome. And I know it's obviously your passion and you've created it and you have a wealth of information and knowledge and years of experience. So that's really awesome. So anything else that makes it different than, something else?
I have the worst business model of all time, Monica. Because when people start nutrition companies, they say, all right, let's figure out the products that are going to be the most popular, they're going to make the most money, right? Mm-hmm. And they market them, and they figure out how to get an angle to market them. That's not how I started Species. I said, well, what are the products that I would want to use? Okay. And I want to make the best quality. So I can have bragging rights that my stuff is better than everyone else's. And that's the worst business model because you have the most cost of your products. And now you have to sell your products for more money, of course, and people don't want to pay more money unless, and here's the caveat, unless you can explain to them why they're paying more. So I found myself in the unique situation where I was able to educate the public, one person at a time, two people at a time, whatever it may be. And that's what I've been doing for the last, 12 years that I've had Species Nutrition, educating people as to what nutritional needs their body have and why they want to use certain dosages, certain types of nutritional supplements, what types in combination, and that's what I've been doing. So every product I've ever come out with Species Nutrition, I can absolutely say is taste the best because I use the most expensive flavoring systems. Okay, if there's a taste to it, and as far as the formulations go, they're the highest potency, most absorbable.
Okay.
And you know what? Probably if you ask most other companies out there, they wouldn't deny that that's the truth. And they would say, you know what? It's too expensive for me to make that formula. I have the highest quality whey isolate on the market. It's 28 grams of protein per 33-gram serving size.
Wow.
You can't buy from a manufacturer of whey isolate anything that's a higher grade than that because I go and get the best one. And so I can say it's the best one. Now, if Joe Blow comes out with a whey isolate, and buys the most expensive one, he's going to put himself out of business because no one's going to buy his because he's going to be the most expensive and no one knows who he is. But people know who I am and they know, they watch the channel, RX Muscle, and they listen to the education I do and explain to people. The average person goes to, Price Club and buys a 5-pound tub of protein for $25. They go home, they try it once, they get diarrhea and gas from it, and they never use it again. And they think all protein is like that.
Right.
But that's not the case. It's because the protein they bought was cheap. It's got a lot of lactose in it. Most adults can't digest lactose. They ferment it. And then that's what causes all the problems. So I have to sit there and educate people as to the differences between the nuances. When I came out with a fiber supplement, my product Fiberlize, people thought I was crazy. They're like, you'll never sell fiber. I said, are you kidding me? Everyone needs a fiber supplement. And it took me, and I've been educating people for 12 years about the merits of fiber. And when people use Fiberlize, they're like, it's like a religious experience for them. They can't believe how good they feel, how detoxified they feel, how flat their stomach is. And then they see their blood work improve. Their LDL cholesterol goes down. All their markers for inflammation go down. Their blood sugars are better. And they're like, holy mackerel, this stuff's a miracle. But no one knew enough because no one could explain and educate people. So my task is a little harder than everyone else's with Species, but once again, I have products that effectively work. I remember when Adela Garcia tore up her knee, when she was winning Fitness Olympias, and she said, I heard you have a really good joint, repair product. And I sent her a couple of bottles of Arthrolyze, and the doctor couldn't believe how quickly her knee recovered from that. And it was just the fact that people never took enough of the stuff. They never took enough glucosamine and chondroitin and MSM. And when and that was the missing link. So once again, the products require education, but they're all, it's like, I'm like the Lamborghini or the Bugatti of nutritional supplements. They're a little more expensive, not a lot, a little more expensive, but they're way more effective. And I could, I'm not going to name names, but 6 weeks out from the Olympia, a lot of the Olympia competitors, I see their wives ordering my protein and stuff like that, even though their husbands are probably endorsed by other companies because they know that that's the best stuff. And when guys are getting ready for a show, if you're an elite level athlete, you want to put the best stuff into your body. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know you're up to the task of educating people and continuing to educate people. So that's awesome. I can't wait to try a couple of your things. So.
Yeah, I'll send out your little gift pack to you.
Yay, that's awesome. Okay, my next question, who do I need to talk to become an RX muscle girl?
An RX muscle girl?
I saw that on your website.
Yeah, we used to do that a lot. I had a whole section for the RX muscle.
I saw that. I'm like, I've got some really awesome new updated pictures, and it might be kind of fun to highlight a 50-year-old,
I told you I'm going to get you on my channel because I have a lot to pull out of you. I don't think I've ever seen an interview where anyone's been able to dig deep enough into you. I got to get you on my channel, and I will. Okay. Because you're a legend, and I think that a lot of people want to know where you came from and what makes Monica Monica. So I'm going to definitely get you on there, and you're going to give me all those pictures, and we're going to put them up while I'm interviewing you. I think that's awesome. And
Awesome,
you know
awesome.
what? I'll tell you what, it's kind of sad, Monica. I spent a lot of money and time invested in covering the women's part of the sport when RX Muscle kind of first was launched in 9, 10, 11, 12. And I noticed what all these other sites noticed, that there's no, first of all, a lot of the women, there are women that participate, but these women, like, you know, I'm trying to cover all the bodybuilding women and everything like that. And they're like, oh, I don't have any time to do an interview. It's amazing how for a group of people to get no coverage, and then you try to cover them and they can't find 10 minutes, you know, to interview with you. And that's not all of them. Most of them are participate, but I'm saying sometimes a lot of the top names, they're difficult to nail down. And number two is that the views I get on interviewing a woman are so much lower than the men. It's so weird. I don't know why. You know, back in the day, I used to love to read the articles about the women in the magazines. So, you know, you're an interesting, like if I get someone who's interesting and has a very interesting story, I love to interview them because I like to extract things that other people don't know about, interesting cases of women's, you know, I just had interviewed a girl who had scoliosis. 14 years old, she had to have her whole back fused, and she was a gymnast, and it destroyed her gymnastic career. And they said she'd never amount to anything. She wouldn't be able to do sports, and now she's an IFBB pro. So that to me was a compelling story. And so, you know, I love to interview people that have compelling stories because I like to hear their story personally, and then I know the fans like that too. So I wish more women would be a little more proactive in trying to participate in what I'm doing, you know, but I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm like having to pull teeth to get them on.
Well, speaking of, next week I have Linda Murray coming on my show. So
she's great. She's a great interview.
I'm excited, and I'm hoping Corey will jump in. I finally connected with her, so I'm hoping to get her on.
I've been trying to get her too. Yeah.
Rachel McClish told me last year that she's not involved in fitness anymore, so she didn't think she'd be a good person to interview. I was like,
I don't know why these people think they don't have good stories. It's the history of bodybuilding. I don't know. You see, but you see what you're saying. You're getting like you would think these people would want to be validated.
I got Sandra Blackie on. She was awesome.
She's good. Yeah, I've had
her. Kim Javesky and I have been talking. She's supposed to be coming on. And there was one other one. I've been trying to get hold of Carla Dunlap too. Okay, we're thing. It could be a trip type thing. Is there like a place that you guys would like?
I'll tell you the tradition that was passed to me from my father. My father had this thing. You don't buy cards in the store. You have to make your own cards. So birthday cards, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas cards. You have to make your own cards. And I've been doing it my whole life, and I do it for my family now. And I always draw it with markers and creative stuff. I never bought a card in the store. I always make my own.
That's beautiful. That is something so special. Out of all of this interview, that's got to be my favorite thing to learn about you, because you're this tough, aggressive, fierce guy, and here you are drawing cards for your, I love it. I might get teary-eyed. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, I love that. I love it. Okay, I've got 4 things. Your favorite supplement of all time? You can only pick one.
One favorite supplement of all time. I would have to say whey isolate. I think it made consuming enough protein pleasurable.
Pleasurable after they got past the first initial ones.
Yeah, after they got rid of all the lactose. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Chest exercise. Favorite chest exercise?
Incline bench press.
Hey. Dumbbell or flat or bar?
Barbell.
Barbell. Favorite quad exercise?
Squats. King of the leg exercises.
And your favorite diet food? When you were dieting, what was the thing you actually looked forward to eating?
Salmon.
Salmon. That's great. You did a great job. Oh my gosh. And I'm telling you, I absolutely loved what you just shared with me, and I feel honored that you shared that with me.
I don't think I've ever shared that with anyone. So that you extracted something from me that I've never talked about. So that's great.
I'm so excited. That has got to be one of my favorite things. That made me really happy. Okay. I want to share this really quick with you. I think you have a cosmetic doctor that you're working with or you partner with or something. So this is just for your knowledge, because my presenting sponsor for the Monica Brant show is CYRMD, and they have a new part of his practice. So this is a friend of mine. It's a family-owned business, and I used to train their daughter when she was 16 and 17. Right. Loved training her. But he's been an orthopedic surgeon, like one of the best in the country for, well, maybe probably even for the world, for a very long time. He's military, former military. He has a great story. Well, he's now he's the only doctor that, and I think it's in the world. Yeah, he's the only doctor in the whole world that has dual fellowship now with orthopedic surgeon and cosmetic surgery.
Wow.
And he's doing something very specific. He's calling it orthosculpt. So he's literally going in and sculpting the muscles. Now, when you look at him, he looks like a bodybuilder.
Oh, really?
I think he's in his late 40s. He's in incredible condition. Like, he keeps himself lean, and like he could go on stage, but he's never competed. But he grew up loving the bodybuilding industry. And so he was a fan of mine from all of my bodybuilding magazines. And so when he found out I was, here in the area in San Antonio, they hired me to come and work with his daughter. So that's how I got to know them. But he's doing this orthosculpt where they go in and he can go in and he chisels around the muscles to produce a, muscle density and leanness.
More separation.
Right. And since he knows the muscle so well, and he's the orthopedic surgeon, so this is going to be like dual practice. And I'm sharing this with you because I think it's really an interesting piece. And I know you have a lot of...
I'd love to interview him. That sounds great.
Yeah, okay. And then he's also a good friend. And I'm going to be doing some work with them for their clients, their patients.
Look him up. I love to talk to him about that. I think the fans would love it on the RX Muscle too.
Yeah, and he's really interesting guy, and he's got he's extremely smart. He's got a great background, and I think you'll enjoy him. So that will be fun. I will definitely do that. But Dave, this has been such a pleasure. Likewise. I really thank you for your time and opening up your information, your experiences, and your heart. That just made me so happy. And I just want that's something I've been helping to raise. My husband and I helping to raise a young girl here in San Antonio. She's 18 now, and I've been having her do those cards, and she made me one for my birthday this year when I turned 50, and I just sat there and I got just like water coming out.
It's personalized. The sentiment that it delivers is something you can't capture in someone else's words.
We have some really interesting things in common, because that's been a very important piece to me. I can't say that I've never bought a card for someone, but I certainly have done that and I like to go in and I actually, if I buy a card, I go in and I kind of rewrite or add in my own little words here and there. And
my father always made cards for us. And you know what? If I forgot a birthday or something like that, or a Christmas, and I didn't give him a card, let's say I could buy him a new car. If it didn't have a card, he would scream at me. Like, I would be like, "Where's my card?" Like, Literally, it wouldn't even matter what I bought him. The gift was, it didn't matter what's the matter. The card was everything. And so that was instilled in me. So I make cards for everyone now.
Well, and what about the people that get to the card, but they don't sign your name on the envelope? I'm like, well, how do I know this is for me?
I get Christmas cards all the time. I don't know who it's from sometimes, you know.
There's no name.
Put a picture in there.
This has been such a treat, and I know we went over 10 minutes. We probably went at 20, so I'm gonna have to let you go because you need to go do other important things and your children and all of that. Thank you. Tell your wife hi for me, and I hope to get to meet her someday and see your children. And I'm just so thankful to have this time with you. It's been an honor and a real treat and a real pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to be interviewed by you.
Thanks, Dave. All right, Kona, take him away. All right, you guys, I hope you've enjoyed this talk tonight. I guess you can tell I got so excited and had such a wonderful time with Dave and learning all about his past. And, you know, working in this industry for all the years, you get to meet people and spend time with people. But sometimes you just, because there was always work involved, there wasn't that opportunity to actually get to know people all the time. And so this has been a real treasure for me, the Monica Brant show, while I've been able to talk to so many of my past associates and friends and people that were have been in this industry, are still in the industry, and have helped create this industry, the legendary athletes, the powerhouse people. I'm so excited about this opportunity, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you to all my sponsors, presenting sponsors, CRMD, nutrition and skincare, and now with their new orthoscope, I can't remember what he's calling himself, architect. He's an architect, a body architect. So cool. At Legendary Foods, thank you so much. I can't wait to get the here we go. the birthday cake flavor. I think it's at my UPS store, so I need to be going down there tomorrow to pick that up. Aloe Life International, Egg White International. And thank you to BodyScape magazine. And we do have photo shoots coming up. So if you're interested in getting your pretty face on the cover of BodyScape magazine, don't hesitate to let me know. info@monicabrant.com, and I can get you all the details. And thank you again to my special guest, Dave Palumbo. All right, Kona, let's take it away.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching the Tasty Pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.